Good morning and welcome to the December open meeting of the Federal Communications Commission, our last meeting in 2021. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce our agenda this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. For today's meeting, you will hear 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of proposed rulemaking and a notice of inquiry to improve clarity and accessibility of emergency alert system visual messages to the public, including for persons who are deaf or hard of hearing and others who are unable to access the audio message. Second, you will consider an order and notice of proposed rulemaking that would propose revisions to the Commission's rules for spectrum sharing among low Earth orbit satellite systems. The goal of the proposed revisions is to facilitate the deployment of the new generation of non-geostationary satellite orbit fixed satellite service systems, including new competitors. Third, you will consider a notice of proposed rulemaking that proposes to implement a central document repository or bidding portal through which service providers would be required to submit their bids to the E-rate program administrator and seeks comment on other changes to the E-rate competitive bidding rules. This is your agenda for today. The first item on your agenda is entitled Improving Accessibility and Clarity of Emergency Alerts and will be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. Lisa Folks, Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. Folks, please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman Rosenworcel and Commissioners. The Emergency Alert System is a powerful tool for government officials to quickly warn and inform their communities about the dangerous situations. This system delivers thousands of alerts every year over television and radio, which helps save lives. While these alerts deliver both visual and audio messages to the public, the visual and audio content are not always identical, and the visual portion, that is the text on the TV screen, often provides less information. This phenomenon is particularly noticeable during nationwide tests of the emergency alert system. Today, we present to you a notice of proposed rulemaking to improve the clarity and accessibility of visual emergency alert system messages to the public, including for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. We also present a notice of inquiry that will seek comment on additional ways to increase alert accessibility and other potential changes to improve the functioning of the emergency alert system. With me today from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau is Chris Fideli. I would also like to thank the other Bureau staff who worked on this item, as well as other bureaus and offices that contributed. Now on to Mr. Fideli. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Folks. Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. As background, the Emergency Alert System uses 2 methods for getting alerts from the government entities that issue alerts to the broadcast stations, cable systems, and other entities that transmit the alert to the public. The first method is typically called the legacy EAS method, and it involves embedding the alert in over-the-air broadcasts that are monitored and rebroadcast by the various stations and systems that rebroadcast the alert to the public. In the second method, government entities send their alerts over the internet to FEMA's Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, which then distributes the alerts to the EAS participants that transmit the alert to the public. This internet-based method involves formatting the alert using the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, which provides greater capabilities for transmitting visual messages, among other things. Against this backdrop, the combined item before you seeks to improve the visual message generated for nationwide tests using the legacy emergency alert system, encourage greater use of internet-based alerting generally, and explore potential changes to the legacy emergency alert system to enable the distribution of matching visual and audio information and increase functionality generally. First, the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking proposes to require use of a predetermined script as the visual message for nationwide tests using the legacy emergency alert system. This item also proposes to revise certain defined terminology programmed in emergency alert system equipment used by the broadcasters, cable systems, and other entities that transmit the alert to the public in order to improve the clarity of visual messages generated for nationwide tests using the internet-based distribution method. Second, the notice of proposed rulemaking proposes to require that the broadcasters, cable systems, and other entities that transmit the alert to the public, when receiving a state and local area alert over the legacy system, such as those regularly distributed by the National Weather Service during weather-related emergencies, check for and use, if available, the internet-based CAP version of that alert so as to take advantage of CAP's superior visual messaging capabilities. Third, the notice of inquiry seeks comment on whether the legacy emergency alert system architecture can be modified, augmented, or redesigned to enable the government entities that originate alerts to relay more visual information as part of or in parallel with their alert message. Beyond that, the notice of inquiry seeks comment on ways to improve the legacy emergency alert system architecture to enable more functionality within the system as a whole. The Bureau recommends the Commission adopt this notice of proposed rulemaking and notice of inquiry and requests editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench, and we will begin with Commissioner Carr.
Thank you. When we send out these potentially life-saving emergency alerts, it is vital that every single American, as many Americans as possible, have the opportunity to receive that critical information in a timely manner. And that obviously includes those in the disability community as well. So I'm very pleased to vote in favor of this item. I want to thank the chairwoman for bringing forward this item, which could significantly not only improve EAS as a general matter, but also the accessibility features of those alerts. So thanks for bringing the item forward. Thanks to the Bureau for all the work on it. It has my support.
Well put. Thank you. Commissioner Starks.
Yes, agree with all of those comments. Thank you to the team for the hard work. This is absolutely critical for so many in the disability community, and this is very good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I concur with my colleagues' comments. I just want to thank the FCC staff as well for the continued work on improving this country's emergency alert system. When it matters most, this system gets vital information to the public in a timely fashion, and the proposals we're seeking comment on today should help make sure that as many Americans as possible can benefit from this important resource. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. As we all know, late last week, a tornado tore through Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee. It ripped through whole communities, downing trees, flattening homes, and razing businesses. The images are a stark reminder of just what devastating weather can do. But the words about the storm sting too. It was just yesterday that the governor of Kentucky announced that it might be a week or more before the state has a final count of the deceased. The ages of those who died, he said, ranged from 5 months to 86 years. 6 were younger than 18. Now, it's hard to know what kind of warning is adequate when freak weather like this comes along. But we do know that we are seeing these kinds of storms with greater frequency, and I think we have a responsibility to improve the warning systems we have to get people the news they need in an emergency. Now, for more than half a century, the public has relied on the emergency alert system or its predecessor for the broadcast of timely information in disaster. And today, along with the wireless emergency alert system, EAS is a critical part of our communications alerting infrastructure. And EAS alerts can be generated by a wide range of authorities, from state and local officials all the way up to the President of the United States. The National Weather Service can generate these alerts too, and in fact, they issued dozens of them in the 6 states affected by the tornado. In disaster, many of us instinctively turn on the television, and when EAS alerts are displayed on the screen, they have both an audio component and a visual component. In other words, they feature both a recorded message and a text crawl. But because of the legacy television architecture of EAS, the audio component doesn't always match the visual text. This can mean that in some circumstances, less information may be conveyed to either those individuals who have access only to the visual component or to those who have access only to the audio component. And this can cause real confusion. This is especially true for those with disabilities who, it has been demonstrated time and time again, have greater difficulty preparing for and recovering from emergency and disaster. So today's rulemaking and inquiry is an effort to fix this problem and deliver more consistent EAS alerts in disaster. For starters, we propose to improve the script for visual text during nationwide tests of the legacy system. We also propose changes to our rules that would bring similar clarity to nationwide tests using the newer internet-based Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP. Then, because there is greater ability to include enhanced text with CAP alerts, we propose to require broadcasters to check to see if there's a CAP version of an alert available when they receive an emergency alert over the legacy system. Finally, we ask what additional steps can be taken to rethink the architecture of EAS and improve the functionality of the system as a whole. We're looking for all the good ideas here, both big and small, because we know firsthand they can make a difference. In fact, the agency's Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau has been in close contact with FEMA, state and local emergency managers, carriers, and broadcasters in the states the tornado visited last week. We know that improving outreach is vital and that keeping our alerting practices up to date is essential, and that's what we seek to do here. Thank you to the staff who worked on this effort, including Steve Carpenter, Chris Fidelli, Lisa Folks, Nicole McGinnis, Dave Munson, and Renee Rowland from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. David Horowitz, Bill Richardson, and Anjali Singh from the Office of General Counsel, Michelle Schaefer and Emily Talaga from the Office of Economics and Analytics, Carrie Hicks and Charles Mathias from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, Deborah Packin and Susie Singleton from the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, Hillary DeNigro and Evan Morris from the Media Bureau, Shannon Lipp, Jeremy Marcus, and Ashley Tyson from the Enforcement Bureau, and Shauna Wilkerson from the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. And with that, we will proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item's adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, please announce the next item on today's agenda.
Madam Chair.
Madam Secretary, I think we've lost your audio.
I don't know. Okay,
Yeah, we hear you now. We hear you loud and clear.
thank you.
Sure.
I'll start again. Madam Chairwoman and Women and Commissioners, item 2 on your agenda is entitled Facilitating Satellite Broadband Competition and will be presented by the International Bureau. Thomas Sullivan, Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Sullivan, please proceed.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. I'm pleased to introduce an item that reflects the International Bureau's continuing efforts to update the Commission's satellite rules to promote innovative space-based services. The Bureau recommends that the Commission adopt the Order and Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, which proposes revisions to the Commission's rules for spectrum sharing among non-geostationary satellite orbit fixed satellite service systems, or NGSO FSS systems. The goal of the proceeding is to build a comprehensive record so that the Commission will be in a position to adopt new rules to continue to facilitate the deployment of a new generation of broadband satellite constellations, including new competitors. I'd like to thank the team in the International Bureau for their work on this order and NPRM, as well as my colleagues in the Office of Economics and Analytics, Office of General Counsel, and Office of Communications and Business Opportunities for their review and assistance with the item. Clay DeSell, an attorney in the Satellite Division's Policy Branch, will present this item this morning.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning, Commissioners. This order and notice of proposed rulemaking would continue Commission efforts to facilitate and promote a new generation of broadband satellite constellations. The item explores revisions to the spectrum sharing rules for non-geostationary satellite orbit fixed satellite service systems, or NGSO FSS systems, to encourage competition and provide greater regulatory certainty. Over the past 5 years, the Commission has received an unprecedented number of satellite license applications for NGSO FSS systems. Constellations of these satellites in low Earth orbit can provide broadband services with lower latency and broader coverage than was previously available via satellite. In 2017, the Commission updated its licensing rules for NGSO FSS systems. The International Bureau has also initiated several processing rounds for NGSO FSS system applications, in which timely filed applications are considered together on an equal basis. In a petition for rulemaking, SpaceX requests additional changes to the spectrum sharing rules for NGSO FSS systems. This item grants in part the petition for rulemaking and seeks comment on potential revisions to the sharing requirements among NGSO FSS systems in 4 ways. First, the notice proposes to limit the Commission's existing spectrum sharing mechanism for NGSO FSS systems to those systems approved in the same processing round. Second, the notice proposes to require that NGSO FSS systems approved in a later processing round protect those systems approved in an earlier processing round and invites comment on how to define such protection. Third, the notice seeks comment on whether to adopt a sunsetting provision for the interference protection afforded to an NGSO FSS system because of its processing round status. And fourth, the notice invites comment on ways to facilitate coordination among NGSO FSS operators by requiring the sharing of specific information, such as satellite beam pointing data. In order to seek public comment on ways to further promote spectrum sharing among a new generation of broadband satellite constellations, the Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thanks so much. I think the launch of this next generation of NGSOs that a lot of companies are looking at right now has a real opportunity to be a game changer in so many of the technology sectors that we regulate, but obviously also be disruptive and beneficial for consumers. So I'm glad that we're taking a look at how we can streamline and modernize our regulatory approaches to accommodate this big influx in interest in getting up into low Earth orbit. I also think, obviously all stakeholders now, as we are looking to put more up in space, have an interest in their own efficient system designs. I think it's important that we encourage everyone to keep an eye out for that, to make sure that these systems going up are doing so in a well-designed, efficient manner. And I think when we pair that with the streamlining of our regulations, we're going to give a lot of opportunity to a lot of different providers to succeed in this space. No pun intended. But thank you so much to the team for their work on this. Thanks to the chairwoman for bringing it forward. It has my support.
Thank you. Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The last few years have seen a transformation in the American space sector. So far this year, the United States has launched nearly 50 missions to place satellites in Earth orbit or deep space. Satellite imaging and sensing companies are helping governments, commercial actors, and other organizations assess how our planet is experiencing conditions ranging from climate change to the spread of COVID-19. And non-geostationary satellite orbit fixed satellite service, that's a mouthful, NGSO FSS systems are beginning to bridge the digital divide, of course. And so Commission policies must keep pace with these changes to encourage innovation while preserving a level playing field between incumbents and new entrants. That's why the Commission, of course, updated its NGSO rules in 2017 for the first time in more than a decade. And since then, the Commission has received, as we heard, an unprecedented number of applications for NGSO space station licenses, including systems of previously unimaginable size. And these next generation satellite systems aim to provide broadband service to the most difficult to reach places in America with latency and superior speeds to any pre-existing satellite broadband options. And it's appropriate for us to consider further updates to our rules to protect significant investments reflected in these and other systems while also preserving opportunities for new entrants. And so given the rapidly changing character of this sector and finite nature of this of spectrum in the first place, I'm particularly interested in how we might encourage satellite operators to adopt a spectrally efficient technology that will ensure the very best and highest use of spectrum. And so I'm glad and grateful that the chair and my colleagues accepted some edits that I suggested, seeking comment on incorporating spectral efficiency incentives into some of our policies. So thank you to IB for the hard work. It has my support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks, and thank you for your contributions. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This order in NPRM, if adopted today, will provide the Commission with a fulsome record to enable it to modify the NGSO spectrum sharing rules in a way that better addresses the realities of the blossoming NGSO market, and also to eliminate rules that may foster conflict among licensees. The item demonstrates a willingness to aid U.S. competition in an intrinsically global satellite marketplace and to make certain that outdated policies do not stand in the way of companies that wish to license their systems in the USA. I'm pleased to vote in support of this item and express my gratitude to the staff of IB for all their diligent work.
Thank you, Commissioner Symington. You know, for more than half a century, space-driven technologies have been responsible for a lot of improvements in our day-to-day life. That includes everything from robotics that support new surgical capabilities to lithium batteries that power electric cars, to cameras that make panoramic photography a snap. And looking back, it is very clear that the first space age was an incredible source of innovation. Now, of course, a new space age beckons. It means more satellites, more possibilities for our exploration, and more opportunities for entrepreneurial activity in our skies. Already, we're seeing rockets for space tourism and new constellations that can expand broadband to the furthest reaches of the globe. And to help usher in this new era, the FCC needs to make changes. We're already on our way. In April, for the first time in history, the FCC allocated spectrum specifically to support commercial space launch operations. In November, we cleared the way for 2 new low Earth orbiting constellations that will bring broadband and the Internet of Things services to consumers, businesses, and government customers in the United States and around the world. And in August, we initiated a new V-band processing round that has resulted in proposals from 9 constellations for nearly 38,000 new satellites that will offer global broadband. Today, we're taking note of the significant increase in innovative low Earth orbit satellite systems seeking to offer broadband with higher speeds and lower latencies. This is exciting. But the rush to develop these new space opportunities requires rules that keep competition and innovation front of mind. Because despite the revolutionary activity in our skies, our regulatory frameworks that we rely on to shape these efforts, quite honestly, they're dated. They were built for an era when heading to space was strictly for government superpowers. They did not imagine a world where space entrepreneurship and competition could ever take hold. So in this rulemaking, we take a hard look at our satellite rules. We want to make sure they create a level playing field for new competitors. We start by reviewing our processing round rules for non-geosynchronous satellites in low Earth orbit. Right now, these rules grant a first mover advantage to satellite companies through a spectrum priority. This can be a good thing, especially if it provides early entrants the certainty they need to invest in costly and often risky satellite deployments. But it's not a good thing if it shuts out competitors from even entering the space. So we ask if the FCC should sunset that first mover advantage after some time so that our rules reward investment while also creating the opportunity for new entrants to achieve a level playing field. And to further support competition, we also propose rules to improve spectrum sharing and communication between satellite operators. So with this rulemaking, we are just getting started because we also need to speed the processing of applications to keep pace with all the innovation headed our way. On top of that, the demands of these new constellations will require the FCC to coordinate more closely than ever before with our federal partners with interest in this area. That's a lot, but count me as excited. There's work to do to support this new space age, so let's get to it. Thank you to the agency staff who worked on this rulemaking, including Clay DeSalle, Jennifer Gilsonan, Carl Kensinger, Catherine Medley, Thomas Sullivan, Troy Tanner, and Marissa Velez from the International Bureau. Dave Konskow and Bill Richardson from the Office of General Counsel, Patrick Brogan, Catherine Matres, Virginia Metallo, Marilyn Simon, and Emily Talaga from the Office of Economics and Analytics, and Maura McGowan from the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. We'll now proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, please announce the next item on today's agenda.
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, the last item on your agenda will be presented by the Wireline Competition Bureau and is entitled Promoting Fair and Open Competitive Bidding in the E-Rate Program. Chris Monteith, Chief of the Bureau, will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. Monteith, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. The Wireline Competition Bureau, together with the Office of Managing Director, is pleased to present for your consideration a notice of proposed rulemaking that, if adopted, would seek comment on potential changes to the E-Rate program targeted at several goals. Streamlining program requirements for applicants and service providers, strengthening program integrity, preventing improper payments, and decreasing the risk of waste, fraud, and abuse. I would like to thank the Bureau team and our colleagues in the offices of Managing Director and General Counsel for their hard work on this item. Gabriella Gross, a special counsel in the Wireline Competition Bureau's Telecommunications Access and Policy Division, will now present the item. Gabby?
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. In today's Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, we propose to establish a bidding portal for E-Rate competitive bidding documentation and require service providers to submit bids to the Universal Service Administrative Company, known as USAC, through the bidding portal rather than directly to applicants when they respond to applicant requests for E-Rate eligible services. The E-Rate program provides support to ensure that schools and libraries can obtain affordable, high-speed broadband services and internal connections to connect today's students and library patrons with next-generation learning opportunities and services. In recent years, the Commission has adapted the E-Rate program to meet program participants' growing demand for broadband and to provide more equitable access to funding for Wi-Fi networks and other internal connections. At the same time, inherent in maintaining good stewardship of E-Rate funds is the Commission's responsibility to protect against waste, fraud, and abuse, and to ensure that funds are used for appropriate purposes. Today's notice seeks to do just that and is responsive to recommendations from last year's Government Accountability Office's audit regarding management of fraud risks in the E-Rate program, the Office of Inspector General's 2017 semi-annual report to Congress, as well as the FCC's reported improper payments related to competitive bidding. Specifically, the notice before you today, if adopted, would require service providers to submit bids to USAC through a bidding portal rather than directly to applicants when responding to applicants' requests for E-Rate eligible services, and seeks comment on 1, requiring USAC to temporarily withhold submitted bids from applicants for a stated minimum period of time instead of permitting applicants to access bids as they are submitted, and 2, revising the Commission's rules to require applicants to submit other competitive bidding documentation through the portal, such as bid evaluation matrices, questions from bidders, as well as contract documents at the time applicants submit their applications. In so doing, the notice seeks to provide transparency and improve USAC and the Commission's ability to ensure that entities participating in the E-Rate program conduct a fair and open competitive bidding process, prevent improper payments and applicant compliance findings based on an applicant's failure to produce such documentation, and increase efficiencies and reduce administrative costs associated with the collection of such documentation by requiring it upfront rather than during the review process. The Wireline Competition Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges.
Thank you. We'll now hear any comments from the bench, beginning with Commissioner Carr.
Thank you so much to the presentation. I'm very pleased that we are taking up the recommendations by GAO that we can improve the USAC process, the E-rate process, particularly in light of the concerns that they expressed about monitoring the bidding information and potentially waste, fraud, and abuse. I think particularly in light of all the additional investments that we're seeing in efforts to bridge the digital divide, I think moving forward with proposals like this one that can improve oversight and monitoring of it is more important than ever before. So I want to thank the chair for moving so quickly to put this into an NPRM. I look forward to moving forward in an expeditious manner on an order as well. So thanks to the team for all the work.
Thank you. Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. As well, we're seeing from Congress and as all of us in this sector that more money and more dollars are coming, and they need to be impactful and get to their highest and best use. E-rate is also a program that we all deeply believe in for our young students, for young learners, and obviously, to my background, both at the Department of Justice and at the FCC's Enforcement Bureau, making sure that we are good stewards of those programs and those dollars is important. So this will be an approved for me as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. The FCC spends billions of dollars a year on the E-rate program. And while most of that money is spent legally and according to our rules, we have also uncovered troubling cases of seriously defective competitive bidding programs and even outright fraud. These discovered cases may only be the tip of the iceberg. The Government Accountability Office specifically identified the E-rate competitive bidding process as carrying a serious underlying risk of waste, fraud, and abuse. And the FCC Office of the Inspector General recommended several actions to reduce that risk, including the creation of a centralized repository of bids. This notice is the first official step to putting that recommendation into effect. As for the concerns some have expressed, I'm also satisfied that the notice asks the right questions to make sure that the resulting order does not harm the ability of E-rate applicants and providers to effectively use these funds. So I want to thank the GAO, the IG, and most importantly, the FCC staff for their hard work in getting us to this point. And I look forward to when we can bring a final order into effect.
Thank you, Commissioner Symington. For more than 2 decades, E-rate has been a powerhouse. It is our nation's largest education technology program, and it has been the force behind making sure that schools and libraries in every corner of this country have access to high-speed broadband. But great programs do not thrive without continuous attention and care. And today's effort is part of that care. We begin a rulemaking to improve E-rate by establishing a central document repository to support competitive bidding in the program. We take this step, as you've heard from my colleagues, in response to a review from the Government Accountability Office and the agency's own Inspector General recommending that we do so. And I, too, look forward to the record that develops. I also look forward to continuing to take steps to strengthen this program and expanding the good it can do. For their work to strengthen E-rate for schools and libraries across the country, let me thank Allison Barker, Philip Bonanno, Brian Boyle, Adam Copeland, Justin Fall, Gabriella Gross, Jesse Jackman, Sue McNeil, Chris Monteith, Ryan Palmer, Joseph Slingingbong, Janae Schreiber, and Haley Steffen of the Wireline Competition Bureau, Dan Daly, Mark Stevens, and Kara Voth of the Office of Managing Director, Valerie Hill, Richard Mallon, Linda Oliver, and Xin Yu of the Office of General Counsel, Mark Azek, Jonathan Campbell, Octavian Carter, Alex Espinoza, Eric Ralph, Michelle Schaefer, Emily Talaga, Shane Taylor, and Margaret Weiner of the Office of Economics and Analytics, and Maura McGowan of the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. We'll proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item's adopted with editorial privileges. So as we are closing things out now, I want to ask my colleagues one by one if they have any announcements at this time. Commissioner Carr.
I do have one, which is to express my thanks and appreciation to our most recent intern, Adam Chan, who joined us remotely from New York, which I guess is one benefit of so much going virtually, is you can expand the at least the geographic opportunities for people to intern at the FCC, but Adam was really a fantastic intern for us here at the FCC. He's at Columbia, did his undergrad at University of Chicago, and he was interested in the intersection of national security and economic regulation, telecom law. So we sent him to do a deep dive on some of the work on DJI, some of the work on Team Telecom, and he was very helpful to our office as we moved various proposals in those different spaces. So thanks so much to Adam for all of his good work. He's a sharp kid, and I think he's gonna have a lot of successes in the future. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Starks, any announcements?
No announcements, but obviously this is our last meeting of 2021. What a year for those out there. And so everyone, of course, have a happy holidays and be safe, be well.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. No announcements, but I join my colleagues in wishing everyone well in the upcoming holiday season.
Well, thank you, commissioners. Like I said at the start, it's the last meeting of the year. And what happens when you get to the end of the year is, quite honestly, we've got a bunch of retirements. We've got people going on to new things, and we've got people spending time with their grandchildren. And if you'll indulge, I want to give them all a hearty goodbye. So we're going to start with Kurt Bartholomew, who has served in the U.S. government for over 50 years in a broad range of national security, defense, intelligence, law enforcement, and emergency management positions. And most recently, he served as the Commission Continuity Manager in the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. And in this role, he led the development and implementation of the Commission's continuity program, among a whole bunch of other responsibilities and accomplishments. He is really well known in the division for his friendly demeanor, his sense of fashion, and his repeated use of the phrase, "Happy holidays, not always during the holiday season." But anyway, Mr. Bartholomew is the recipient of a whole bunch of civilian awards and military decorations during his 22 years of U.S. Army intelligence service, including combat in 4 countries, for which he was awarded the Bronze Star Medal and Legion of Merit Medal. And he twice received FEMA's highest award, the Director's Award for actions taken during the response to and aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. We have a hero in our midst, and we want to make sure that we send him off and let him know that he will be sorely missed. Second, after 31 years of distinguished service, not too shabby, the last 11 at the FCC, Paul Blaise is retiring from his position in the International Bureau's Chief of the Systems Analysis Branch Satellite Division. Paul joined the FCC after an honorable and distinguished career in the Marine Corps, and after serving in various capacities as both a contractor and government employee. For a whole bunch of people in Washington and throughout the U.S., when they call the FCC about a satellite Earth station license, these were the first words they heard. Paul Blaise, how can I help you? That wasn't some formulaic greeting. It was a short introduction to how Paul approached his work day in and day out. And during his 11 years at the FCC, he worked to modernize the International Bureau's electronic filing system and was a catalyst in the FCC C-band transition, where he and his team worked hard to ensure that registered Earth station operators were accounted for in the transition. We wish him only good things as he moves on. Third, Robin Cohn, the Deputy Division Chief in the Wireline Competition Bureau's Pricing Policy Division, has announced she's retiring at the end of this year after nearly a decade at the agency. She had a distinguished career in the private sector and joined the Commission in 2012 as an attorney in the Pricing Policy Division. She very quickly rose through the ranks and has done an absolutely outstanding job in her present position, leading the tariffing team as they review hundreds of tariffs filed each year with the FCC. And that work requires extremely tight turnaround to ensure that the rates, terms, and practices represented in thousands of pages of these tariffs are just as the statute requires, just and reasonable, and not unreasonably discriminatory. She did all this while also responding to a steady stream of inquiries about those tariffs from the public. This work is incredibly detail-oriented and requires a really high level of care. We really appreciate the work that she put in. We're going to miss her expertise, and we wish her all the best in retirement. Up next, after 44 plus years with the FCC, Chantel Ennis is retiring at the end of December. Chantel served primarily in the Media Bureau during her long career, most recently on its management and resources staff, where she continually kept the outside hiring process running smoothly and efficiently, which is no mean feat. We will miss Chantel's great smile, her positive attitude, but we understand if she tells us that her grandchildren are happy they're going to be able to see more of her. So we wish her all the best. Next, Irene Griffin is retiring after working in the federal government for more than 50 years, 36 of those here at the FCC. So she dates back to long before the internet at this agency, when she managed the FCC's public reference room when all the records were actually in paper. During her long career as an analyst in WTV, she helped so many members of the public, whether it was in person, for someone from a small town, a big public safety organization, or a tower owner. Irene's great attitude and friendly smile will be missed. We appreciate all she did in the pre-internet and post-internet era for us. Moving on, James Ham started his public service with the FCC in December of 1990, not in Washington, but at our Gettysburg office. And he was with the FCC for a memorable 30-year, 11-month, and 4-day tenure, but who's counting? He ended his career in Washington at headquarters, and he spent overall more than 31 years here with the Office of Managing Director's Information Technology Division. He was really instrumental early in his career, helping to develop the FCC's early web presence. And he was always willing to learn new things to better support the growing technology requirements of the commission, and they grew fast during his tenure. From service applications integration to systems administration to data architecture and enterprise engineering, he did it all, and he is going to be missed by all. Next, David Roberts, a senior attorney of the Media Bureau, is retiring this month. In his lengthy tenure at the FCC, he was also a manager in the Enforcement Bureau. He's a really valued leader and mentor in the video division, where he generously shared her expertise in the area of foreign ownership, one of the more complex areas of the law. He's also enthusiastically managed the ongoing television license renewal team and was a really effective liaison with the communications bar. Throughout the years, we all enjoyed hearing about his travels worldwide, and in addition, he could always be counted on for expertise in house renovation related matters. We're going to miss him, and we wish him well as he moves on to new adventures in Charlottesville, Virginia. Up next, Jeanette Spriggs, a satellite telecommunications specialist in the International Bureau's Satellite Division, is going to retire right at the end of the year after 46 years of government service, 43 of which were at the FCC. Ms. Spriggs served in various bureaus and offices, transferring from the then common carrier to the International Bureau in 1996 when a certain law was passed. Ms. Spriggs has been instrumental in the timely processing of transfer and assignment applications, the Satellite Division's weekly public notices, and coordination of licensing actions across the FCC bureaus and federal agencies. And you didn't think I would say last but not least, but here I'm saying it. Cecilia Solhoff, a press spokesperson and outreach coordinator for the Wireless Bureau, is retiring after 41 and a half years at the FCC, all of them in the Wireless Bureau and its pre-auction predecessor, the Private Radio Bureau. She started her government career as a phone operator at the Department of Interior, Fish and Wildlife Service before coming to the FCC in August of 1980. She's known throughout the agency for her can-do attitude and her willingness to chip in and help whenever it's needed. In addition, she points out she's raised 5 kids, including 2 sets of twins, and is expecting her first grandchild soon and can't wait to spend time with that grandchild in retirement. So collectively, today's announcement covers hundreds of years of public service. That's incredible. And we're grateful to each and every one of you for your service at the FCC and to the public more broadly. Madam Secretary, please announce the date of our next agenda meeting.
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Thursday, January 27th, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Until then, we stand adjourned.